Imagine boarding a flight from New York and landing in Beirut. Sounds normal? Except that it hasn't been possible for 41 years. Now imagine something even more unbelievable. Lebanon, the country that legally banned relations with Israel, is now slowly moving towards a US-brokered security arrangement involving Israel. If this sounds impossible, that's because just a few years ago, it practically was. Donald Trump may have just made one of the biggest diplomatic bets in the Middle East. But there's one group standing directly in the way: Hezbollah. And if this gamble fails, the region could slide back into war. Donald Trump hosted Lebanese President Joseph Aoun in Washington. On paper, the meeting produced 4 major announcements. Direct commercial flights between America and Lebanon will resume after a 41-year ban placed in 1985 as a result of the TWA Flight 847 hijacking by Hezbollah.
Are you going to allow direct flight from America to Lebanon again on Pedro?
I can see that happening, absolutely.
Secondly, the US promised greater political and military support for Lebanon's national army. Thirdly, Washington reaffirmed financial assistance as Lebanon struggles to one of the worst economic crises in its history.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Lebanese army needs help, and the United States said that it's very important for the Lebanese army to take over the villages that Hezbollah withdrew from. How are you going to help them, and how does
Well, we're going to be speaking about that today.
Making sure that you will be in the
We'll be
South
speaking
as well.
about that today with the president, and we have some very concrete plans already in store for that, with others going in and helping. But they're also becoming much more self-sufficient, and we will be speaking about that. That's one of the subjects we're going to be talking about.
And most importantly, both sides committed to implementing the new US-brokered Israel-Lebanon trilateral security framework. This last point is the real story. Everything else is almost a bonus. To understand why, we need a little history. Lebanon and Israel are technically still enemies. After years of conflict, including the Lebanese Civil War and Israel's military intervention, Lebanon enacted laws 1955 that prohibit normal relations with Israel and participation in what is often called the Israel boycott. Over time, direct contact, trade, and normalization became politically and legally taboo.
President Trump, as you work to expand the Abraham Accords, Lebanon still enforces a 1955 law criminalizing contact with Israel for over 70 years. You previously stated you would push Lebanon on this issue, and there is some people still going to prison last month. So did you raise it you will raise it with President Trump today?
Well, the Abraham Accords have been, I think, a tremendous success. I think you're going to see a lot of countries joining pretty soon. As you know, we have our original group, and it's so successful for them. Economically successful. It's been nobody left, even during this time of conflict. So, no, I think Lebanon has a very important place.
So no peace treaty, no diplomatic relations, no open border. Instead, southern Lebanon became Hezbollah's stronghold. Now, who exactly is the Hezbollah? Think of Hezbollah as something far more powerful than a normal political party. It has ministers, members of parliament, its own army, its own missiles, and its own command structure. Imagine if one political party in your country had a military stronger than the national army. That's Hezbollah, a terrorist-designated organization by the US, EU, the Arab League, and many other nations. Israel sees it as an Iranian-backed terrorist organization sitting right on its border. On the other hand, many leaders inside Lebanon see it as a state within a state that makes war and peace decisions without the elected government's consent. And the new trilateral framework brokered by the United States is trying to change that equation.
When the Israeli army withdraw from Lebanon? When the Israeli army withdraw from Lebanon? Is there a clear timeline?
They're in the process of doing that. They're in the process of redeploying to other sections. And again, they get along very well. That was a great agreement they signed with Lebanon, and they're redeploying.
The idea is relatively simple. Israeli forces gradually redeploy. The Lebanese armed forces, or the LAF, move into the designated pilot zones in southern Lebanon, and as a result, Hezbollah is expected to lose its military presence there, with the US acting as the guarantor. For decades, Israel's answer to Hezbollah rockets was to send Israeli troops. Lebanon's answer was often that the national army wasn't fully in control of the south. Now, perhaps for the first time, Washington wants the Lebanese army, not Hezbollah, to become the sole security force in those areas. That's a major shift. Not normalization yet, but arguably the closest Lebanon has come in decades to structured security coordination involving Israel. But here's where reality interrupted diplomacy. Reports indicate Israeli forces opened fire in an area where Lebanese troops were deployed under one of these pilot zone arrangements.
My question is, the Lebanese army said today that Israeli forces opened fire in proximity to the Lebanese trying to deploy in one of these pilot zones. This is day 2 of the pilot zones. Are you prepared to take any additional steps to put pressure on Israel to withdraw, which I believe President Aoun is planning to ask you?
Well, I just heard about that before this conference just happened, and we'll be looking at that, yeah.
That immediately raises difficult questions. If Israel keeps operating inside these zones, how does Lebanon convince its public that this agreement actually protects its sovereignty? And if Lebanon loses confidence, the entire framework starts looking shaky. This is where Washington may face its first real test. If America wants this agreement to survive, it may have to persuade Israel to complete agreed redeployments while ensuring Hezbollah cannot simply return. And balancing those two goals won't be easy. Now, Hezbollah isn't exactly known for reading peace agreements before breakfast. So what's Hezbollah's take on all this? Its parliamentary leadership has already rejected the Israel-Lebanon agreement. That shouldn't surprise anyone. If the Lebanese army replaces Hezbollah in the south, Hezbollah loses influence. And influence, not just territory, is power.
The Speaker of the Lebanese Parliament rejected the agreement between Lebanon and Israel and said it's a sedition. It's going to cause civil war. He's the Speaker of the Lebanese Parliament and he speaks for Hezbollah. He's Hezbollah's big brother.
Yeah.
What do you have to say about that?
Well, maybe I'll let you speak to that.
Actually, the framework doesn't require the endorsement of the Parliament. Okay, it's part of our constitution. It's a prerogative of the president, and we are committed to it.
There's also another regional angle to watch. Syria's current leadership has also clashed with Hezbollah in recent years. If Beirut seeks broader regional backing against armed non-state groups, Damascus could become an important player. But any direct Syrian role inside Lebanon would be politically sensitive and remain speculative at this point.
From Lebanon, do you still support Syria entering Lebanon to disarm Hezbollah?
You mean coming in and doing something with Hezbollah?
Yes.
Well, it's a concept, we get along very well with the president of Syria. He's done a very good job. I wouldn't be surprised if this gentleman's going to do a job just like that. He's done a very good job. He's pulled Syria together. He would like to come in and do something with Hezbollah. He's been fighting Hezbollah for a long time. I think it'd be very effective.
So what happens next? 3 scenarios at best might play out. The optimistic one: the framework holds, the Lebanese army expands control, and another Israeli-Hezbollah war is avoided. The pessimistic one: Hezbollah resists, cross-border attacks resume, and diplomacy collapses. Or the most likely scenario: months of tense negotiations, occasional violations, American mediation, and a very fragile peace. For Trump, this is more than another diplomatic photo op. If the framework succeeds, Washington could reshape southern Lebanon without another major regional war. You see, Middle East peace is usually announced every few years and tested every few hours. So if the US playing the referee fails, then the Middle East returns to a script we've all seen far too many times. So the next few months won't just decide Lebanon's future. They could determine whether Hezbollah remains the dominant military force in southern Lebanon, or whether the Lebanese state finally begins reclaiming that role. This is Shivangi Mukherjee for India Abroad.